Hey there, this is Dave from bar band Bamboozle. Thanks for joining me today. I want to talk to you about an infamous subject, which is drama, specifically bar band drama. There's a lot of drama in life, and what would life be without the spice of a little drama? The problem is that sometimes drama can derail the progress of any project, but specifically bar bands. I don't know what it is about music, but there's some kind of element of ego and, level of competence that really impacts how people feel about their musicianship, how people are contributing to songs in a project, and generally speaking, just how people get along. So we know from the history of rock and roll that whether it be the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Guns N' Roses, there's a lot of projects that have documented drama. So I think it's important to learn from it. Not that being in a bar band is anything close to being, in the Beatles or Pink Floyd. You can only dream of that. But we've seen in the history of rock and roll that drama can take down a project. And you don't want that to happen. If you're going to be in a bar band and considering that, you've gotten tricked into it, that's sort of the whole thesis of bar band Bamboozle, that it seems good at the beginning, it seems good at the surface, but then you start realizing, what did I get signed up for here? Well, let's take a look at some of the things that are positive about working in a group and how drama can sort of develop. I think really fundamentally, considering that most people get involved in bar bands as adults, they already have jobs, they may have families or are starting families, it's really important to get connected with people who have some emotional intelligence. A lot of times, bar bands can get started, through people connecting at work or, through hobbies. Maybe they're playing sports together and a few people find out that other people that they're hanging out with already can play instruments or sing. That's a good starting point. But you're always also going to need members that you probably don't know. That was my experience in a number of the projects that I worked with. Even when I was pulled into the college band project that I worked for, kind of a house band, I knew the drummer and I kind of knew the guitar player, but the other people I didn't really know. And part of that is getting to know people. One of the issues is that can cause drama is that there will always be one person at least in a band who doesn't practice that hard and shows up at practice with, I didn't really get a chance to go over the material. And one of the things that you can do is, kick that person out of the band, but it's hard to find replacements, and maybe there's another route. Maybe you can, focus on encouraging that person. I find that as a teacher, I get a lot more out of students by being positive, encouraging, and coming up with a plan for getting work done rather than just starting into the whole drama thing, raising my voice, yelling, that kind of thing. So as I was saying, you need people with a certain level of emotional intelligence, and primarily that, of course, needs to be you, because all of this you're experiencing from your perspective. So emotional intelligence is rooted in being able to assess your responses, have some time between your emotions, their initial impact, and then what you actually end up saying to people. And also just having some perspective. Like, let's remember, we're just a bar band here. We're playing bars. This isn't our sole source of income. We should be doing this as a hobby. In some of my other videos, I talk about the importance of learning and getting better at an instrument and having that sort of success at improving your skill, having a sense of mastery. That really should kind of be your focus, not how many gigs that you're going to get or how much money you make. I have another video that talks about how much bar bands get paid, by the way. Check it out, please. And you'll find it very interesting that the amount of money people make in bar bands is pretty low for the most part. I think too, to avoid drama in a band, again, part of the perspective is focusing on being a good or even a great band, but not a perfect band. Most people will never play songs note for note, although you can get pretty close. Most people in the audience, especially after having a few drinks, will certainly have no idea whether or not you're playing note for note, as long as you're doing the signature riffs, as long as you have the right groove. But I think that's a really key part here, is just having perspective on what you're doing. So it should be a hobby. You should be seeking mastery at your instrument. You should be having some camaraderie, and then just enjoying the flow state that you can experience when you're actually at a gig and doing things well. There's no place in a bar band for insulting behavior, rolling eyes, and just general gossip. I've seen that happen in bands, and I've probably been in situations in bands where more of that was happening than should happen, and probably I should have done more to just kind of stop it or just move things in a different direction. But hindsight is 2020, and a lot of things that I've learned in life, I find I'm learning pretty late, but it's never too late to learn. I also think that it's very, very important in a band to avoid drama, that it be a democracy. I've been in one project in particular where basically one person, the vocalist, was sort of the star of the band. And instead of it being, a democracy, it was basically a dictatorship. It was that person's band. And then basically people got hired and fired at that person's whim. And even though it was a successful project and there were a lot of talented musicians involved, at the end of the day, that is just not a healthy setup, and that should be avoided. Everybody should have a vote, whether it's a 4-piece or 5-piece. You need to have a way to figure out if there's going to be a tiebreaker. Everybody needs to be heard. And of course, not all of the songs are going to be your songs, but again, you should have a process in place that determines what kind of music you're going to do, like that you have a rough outline of the genre you're after. Is it 80s pop? Is it 80s new wave? Are you doing 70s classic rock? Are you doing 2020s new disco, Dua Lipa, stuff like that? You need to know what your brand is. And then give people choices and be flexible. Another thing too to remember, and this is something that I learned reading books from Dale Carnegie, is that you can't win an argument. So if you're in a band practice and you disagree, there is no point going into a long tirade about, your evidence and your points for why something should be done and should be true. There are other ways to deal with that. And a lot of times the indirect way is the best way. I think you have to set your limits and your expectations to a level that's reasonable. What do you want out of this project? What are you looking for? And if you're getting less out of the project than you think you should be getting out of it, whether it's, money, or whether it's mastery, or just having good times together making music, then maybe it's time to move on and work with other people. Too much drama isn't definitely worth it. I've also seen drama come out of band projects where people get a sense of, oh, we're better than the other bands out there. I think that can really cause unnecessary stress and tension. Most of the bar bands that I see are a mixture of amateur, intermediate, semi-pro musicians. And if everybody works reasonably hard, a lot of these bands can sound really good. Some can sound very good. But I know some people get upset when, bands that they consider not that great get gigs, and then, it seems like it's unfair. Keep in mind, keep things in perspective, because most gigs are gotten because of somebody not pure raw talent. And yeah, really, it's like that in the job market and in other scenarios as well. So don't get yourself, bent out of shape just because a band that you don't think is as good as yours happens to get a gig. I think it's important to support and encourage other projects. And through building good relationships, that's really when the best things happen. That's when you get more gigs. That's when you build more camaraderie. And that's when you have better performing musicians in your band. So do everything that you can to avoid the drama, encourage people, and keep a positive outlook and approach. That's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly hope that you will subscribe to this channel. I certainly hope that you will like this video. And thanks for checking this out. Have a good one.